can only use it to pay the retiree benefits.
So what is the annual cost of retiree benefits in the district?
It's about 700 and 700,000, yes. And it has been increasing about 10% last 2 years.
Thank you. I appreciate the report. I think I appreciate seeing what kind of return we're getting. It seems prudent to have it. It's unfunded liability, thanks to the state. So I appreciate that the board a long time ago had tried to address that risk.
So on an ongoing basis, we're putting about $10,000 a year into that fund to reduce that liability.
Current year, we put 10,000, and past year, a few years, we put 20,000.
Yeah, we had reduced it.
600,000. Great. I don't see any public comment on this item. It's a discussion item, so if there's no further discussion, we can move on to.
For bringing it.
Thank you. The Legal Services Quarterly Report.
So this is a quarterly report ending December 31st. It shows what has been paid last quarter, October through December, and the annual amount, cumulative amount.
Right.
And compared to last year, most of the areas are about half. Special ed is about half compared to last year. Personnel cost, facilities. Notable one is general legal cost is significantly low. It's still half a year, so we still have to monitor.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the quarterly report.
But it is significantly lower than the last
Yeah,
year.
I saw that.
That's great. Cross
For
reference.
sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Oh, I think it's time for the fun one. It's the Integrated Pest Management Annual Report.
The anticipated, highly
Hey, we
anticipated.
should call it anticipated.
Thank you for no images.
I was missing them, actually. I was like, what?
You want,
I was like
Where are
this.
they?
So every year we give an update on the effectiveness, the implementation of our plan. So what is IPM? Integrated Pest Management, or IPM, focuses on effective, low-risk pest management practices. IPM is a big picture approach to pest management and considers people and the environment when pest management decisions are made. There are a variety of IPM practices, including cleaning regularly, closing gaps in the buildings, fixing leaky pipes, setting traps, and choosing low-risk pesticides. There are government requirements. As part of this, Senate Bill 1405 requires training and reporting to the Department of Pesticide Regulation. That's something we do every year. Right about this time, actually, I've been putting those reports in. Administrative regulation, using the least toxic means of controlling pests and weeds and exploring alternative products. We're always doing that. One of the things that we did this year up at Wagner, there's one wing before I got here, just a weird fly problem. We've gone and looked, and we've sealed everything. We're looking for the warm area for them to wear the loss. So they're called fly predators. They're actually small little bugs that will go and eat the fly larvae before they hatch. Very non-invasive. They're a natural. The little bugs, when they hatch that eat these, you don't even know they're there. So we tried that the last couple months. I talked to the principal over there, and they said yes, dramatic decrease. So it's something that I've used up at my place around the horses. So I thought to do it. It's effective. It's natural, and so we're constantly trying to look outside the box. So I'm pretty happy that one seems like it's doing a good job. California Healthy Schools Act, California Department of Education prohibits certain pesticides, gives the community the right to know when certain products are used. For the example, glyphosate, no glyphosate Roundup. It's a big no-no. We do not do that. Department of Pesticide regulations, schools are limited to the use of pesticides that may be used in compliance with the law. There's a whole list of do's and don'ts, and we follow it very, very carefully. Our plan. Our plan is located on our website. There's a link to our IPM located under the facilities department page of the school district's website. The maintenance and grounds crews, or crew, provide preventive maintenance for control. They mitigate issues as they arise. So we have one grounds for the entire district, one grounds person, but the custodial crew, our maintenance crew are constantly keep an eye out for ponding. We're trying to mitigate mosquitoes, holes that have been worn in buildings where rodents could get in. So it's a pretty collective effort, and we try to stay on top of it where we can. The posting requirements. Anytime that we might use a pesticide, warning signs are put in the area where the pesticide will be applied at least 24 hours before, and we leave that application notice up 72 hours after, because the product would still be there after we spray. People need to know what's on there. 25B exempt. These products like vinegar, weed rot, and others are exempt from pesticide application regulations. However, we've tried several and found them to be ineffective and not real cost effective either. They just don't work. So next page, what do we do? So this is an illustration of, common insects, rats, mice that we do. You start from the simplest. You remove the food, the habitat, any leaks that would come on, seal the cracks, install barriers, traps, manage irrigation. Again, we don't want ponding, anything like that. And then on top of that, we would also use, when it's a bigger problem, we would implement the bait tracks, mechanical traps, Terrell bait traps to take care of these. Any questions? Is that exciting?
I'm kind of curious, do we have some of, are there any like bigger projects that we are thinking about doing around pest management that we might find like in some of the deferred maintenance
Bigger
type?
projects.
Well, just curious. I mean, I just think of, my limited experience with my own homes, just trying to, kind of keep these types of creatures out of them. And, there's some small things you do, you set the traps, and then occasionally you have to do something bigger. Do we have, or are we enough on top of it that
Like
it's?
I said, ongoing, on top of the best we can. Are we perfect? No.
Okay.
But
It's primarily maintenance these days. There's not like,
Yeah.
we could do some breakers.
for example, if we get a complaint where someone thinks or maybe sees a mouse dropping or something, the first thing we do is obviously go and investigate. If we do find signs that there's a rodent in a classroom, you start with the perimeter, see where they may be getting in, seal those areas. That's just an ongoing thing that we do all the time.
Sounds like we actually have a pretty good baseline if we're just pretty much doing maintenance at this
Yeah.
point. So that's great. Okay. Thank you.
And our biggest rat issue has been what we'll maybe connected to our Measure E&I project, and resolved currently with Tabasco sauce. But
Started that, yeah.
with the big project, yes.
Yeah, some of the insulation on the wires is soy based, which is actually a food. It attracts.
Yeah, and that's, yeah.
Tabasco and mint.
Tabasco worked. We got tired of going up and repairing these wires. So I went and bought some Tabasco, got up on the roof, and we just slathered it on and knock on wood. Short term.
Are the issues the same at all the schools or just certain schools?
No, they're not. The conditions are different. If you think about it, Sleepy Hollow, for example, it's in a nature area. So is Wagner Ranch, if you look at it that way. OIS
That's that creek.
has a bit of a nature buffer between the homes next to it. The creeks are a challenge as well, because we are mindful of what we may be putting into the creeks, as far as runoff. So
We had problems with mosquitoes and all with like standing water.
as I said, ponding
Yeah,
water.
that's what I was, yeah.
We're constantly on the look for ponding water.
Has it been more challenging with all the rain too?
Oh yeah, big time. In April, myself and Ocella, our grounds worker, are going to attend a day-long workshop put on by the California Department of Pesticides. So it'll be a lot of our counterparts from different school districts. So I also enjoy those things because you find out about some items, some products that you may not have known about, some techniques. There's a lot of sharing going on. So it's going to be a beneficial day. I'm looking forward to it.
Great, thank you. We appreciate your report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comments? So go ahead and move on to the local control and accountability plan. Make your update.
I will be very brief on this, but because it seems like we're talking about LCAP every meeting now. So I'll just say that this is a brand new requirement that began this year. So we are required just to present to you an update. There's no action or a format of any kind. But this is a template that we use that's given to us that we follow for regular LCAP. And we are supposed to give you a little bit of an update of where we are with the metrics this year. And just in like 3 months, we'll be here with the end of the year update. So there's a lot of our data outcomes are just not ready until the end of the year. So if you looked at them, what we're really looking at is that salmon peach column. Right there is what is happening mid-year and where are we in our outcomes. So the first goal in the LCAP has to do with student learning. So really a lot of our data outcomes talk about how our students are doing. And the board has already heard, for example, our dashboard. We were almost all of our students, all of our groups of students were either in green or blue, and that's what we were striving for, which is really excellent. And our students are getting reclassified in English learner students. All of our students have access to a course of our study. We don't hold any of our students back. And then really the only area here of concern or where we were not meeting the goal was our English learner students were not making progress towards English language proficiency at the same rates they were in 1920. Now, that doesn't mean well, we started it in we were measuring it based on the data in 1920.
1920?
2019, 2020.
I'm sorry,
I'm
that school year.
confused.
Yeah.
Don't go back that far.
They weren't.
Sorry.
I don't even have that data.
Okay.
I don't think it exists.
Yeah, sorry. I'm like, yes, 19. So, and it's a totally different group of students. As you reclassify more kids, you actually narrow down the groups. It's really actually a hard measuring metric. So we just want to make sure that they're actually making progress. Correct. Our math and English data and our science scores we were right on target. With regards to funding, it's also really hard to measure because most of this is in salaries, and it's basically where are we in our salary expenditures at this point. Our goal 2 is around social emotional support, and we'll know a lot more of this data at the end of the year, like around chronic absenteeism and attendance. We just don't have it at this point. But one notable item that I just want to highlight here is that we do have Healthy Kids surveys that have results that have just arrived from our November assessment. And we'll be delving deep into those. I think the presentation is scheduled for April to come here, and we have our wellness and presentation at that time. But what we picked up for this, just to measure, all of our metrics have improved.
Oh, that's good.
So every single one that we pulled up for this as a
Great.
general. Now, I haven't delved into school by school, but in general, all of our metrics have improved, which is great. So students are feeling more connected, lowered students reporting, considering suicide, percent of students reported cyberbullying, have all improved, which is a really positive, yes. Okay, and then our goal 3 is around recruiting, developing, and retaining our staff members. And again, we do actually monitor, we started monitoring this or implemented these actions of any teacher who resigns or leaves the district. Why are they doing so? So there's interviews or reasoning, and we're collecting that data. And then how many teachers are misassigned and so on. And then we're also measuring percent of staff of color, and we're maintaining that by HR. So unfortunately, we've decreased in that metric, but we have maintained in all of our other metrics in this. So we'll continue to monitor that. We don't have, the rest of the data is just not available because we're still going through that process. So we'll have that at the end of the year.
Okay.
And the final goal is around our resources, so management of resources, fiscal and facility. And again, just we have second interim budget is not available at the time, and we'll keep on working on that. The big one on here is also the Wagner Ranch nature area. We had this action item about improving field trips there, and we're at absolute zero right now because it's a condemned area, but we're working on it. So hopefully by the end of the year, when we report this end of the year update, we'll have a nice metric there. So,
Great.
Great, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Any questions?
When does the survey process start then?
I'm hoping next week. Yes,
You didn't do any community forums like in the past?
absolutely. So
Okay.
survey that will then lead to focus groups and community
Great.
forums. Yes, for sure. Because those are actually
Helpful.
really
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the survey really focuses our, like, ask about this sort of.
So,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
lets us know, like, maybe we should delve into this deeper as opposed to being very general.
But like coordinating council, staff, like,
That's what we've done, yeah. And then I go to every single school site and meet
Exactly.
those groups of parents too.
the steering committees as well?
Different committee
Kind of.
groups, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I mean, food service committee wouldn't have anything or
Sure.
yeah, or some, but some, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see the Healthy Kids Survey data.
Yeah.
I know, I was excited to see the little
Little
nuggets that were
bumps.
in here, yeah.
We're just gonna give you little nuggets. No, I'll try and break it down for you and give it to you in the update and then we'll give you the presentation in April.
Thank you.
I've been waiting to
I don't know that we can do that. We cannot change the agenda.
the midway.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be,
Oh, right, yeah.
all right, so on to our action items. Next item is our resolution 24-16, recognizing and honoring February as Black History Month. So why don't we, if everyone has a copy of the resolution, we'll go ahead and take turns reading it. Whereas Black History Month is an annual celebration of the achievements by African Americans and a time for recognizing their central and critical role in United States history. And
Whereas each year during the month of February, the citizens of the United States devote the month to recognizing and celebrating the achievements of African Americans and their contributions to the success and prosperity of the United States. And
Whereas Black history has been celebrated in the United States since 1926, when Carter G. Woodson established a week of celebration, and in 1960, the celebration evolved into a month of homage and tribute, Black History Month, thanks in part to the Civil Rights Movement. And
Whereas in 1976, Black History Month was officially recognized by the federal government to honor and recognize the struggles and achievements of African Americans. And
Whereas the California State Board of Education recognized in its multicultural education policy that each student needs an opportunity to understand the common humanity underlying all people. And
whereas the History Social Science Framework for California Public Schools, kindergarten through grade 12, states that the history curriculum of community, state, region, nation, and world must reflect the experiences of all genders and of different racial, religious, and ethnic groups, which is integrated at every grade level. And
whereas corresponding school and classroom programs held during this month are implemented with the purpose of expanding knowledge about Black History Month and about the heritage and achievements of African Americans. And
Therefore, be it resolved that the Orinda Union School District Board of Trustees do hereby adopt this resolution to honor February 2024 as Black History Month and recognize the tremendous societal contributions made by African Americans.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
I'd just like to say thank you for bringing this resolution forward. You know, Black history is American history, and I appreciate the resolution saying that. And I appreciate how within the curriculum, in the elementary schools and OIS, you know, we're talking about scientists and inventors and all the contributions we've made. And it's not lost on me also the significance of me sitting here in the seat as the first Black woman to serve on the Orinda School Board. So appreciate the community support, you know, making Orinda history, American history, and Black history. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments.
Thank you so much.
And I was going to add, and Giti can add to that too, because she sent out the resources, but I appreciate you mentioning what's being studied, because we do actually have a comprehensive resource list that goes out to all of our staff, and what each grade level how they embed the work throughout the month into our classrooms, and it builds upon each other and it emphasizes it celebrates different aspects of Black History Month at every single grade level, so that every student gets something different as they go through different grades. So it is in our curriculum, and our curriculum should not just be during this month. So as we do adopt more textbooks and go through, you know, as we continuously redesign our curriculum, and many of our teachers do this fantastic already, it is American history. So it's great. In this communication this is, I think, Thursday communication to the community, we'll emphasize that the board passed the resolution and focus a little bit about that to our community.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I don't have any public comment on this item. So this is a resolution. Would someone like to make a motion?
This is Hillary. I move that we adopt resolution number 24-16, recognizing and honoring Black History Month.
This is Ed, I second.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Trustee Wiener?
Aye.
Trustee Shogun?
Aye.
Trustee Phillips?
Aye.
Vice President Collins Coleman?
Aye.
President Hoxie?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right. Time for our comprehensive school safety plans. This can be a big item.
Yeah, I appreciate each kid in Swinnerton being here for this. So sorry that you're here so late. Okay, so this is an annual review of our safety plan, and comprehensive school safety plans. There is a requirement. They must be adopted annually by March 1. So usually February board meetings, and each school must report on the status of a safety plan in their SARCs, which they do sort of a year retroactively. And our schools utilize school site council, or they delegate the responsibility to another committee. And that's actually what we've been doing for the last couple of years is we have last year it was called safety committee. This year it's a steering committee, safety steering committee. But our school site councils still actually meet and review their individual plans. So they did go through the action plans. They added some of their input, and then so on. So we do actually do both. We have consulted with our local law enforcement and Moraga Orinda Fire Department when needed and as needed throughout the plan. So our process this year, so we, as I said, established a steering committee that's focused on this. Cara and Katie are our board representatives on the committee. The committee reviewed requirements and components of the safety plan, and we established goals and action steps to evaluate current progress. MOFD Fire Marshal visited all of our schools. They provided input. They continue to provide input to guidance and mandates with regards to fire abatement and fire safety and so on. And Stuart works really closely with them. And then Orinda Police Department representative, they visited all of our schools at the end of the year, all throughout the spring last year, looked through our evacuation plans. And Chief Sullivan was present during one of our meetings, and they continue to work with us as we now implement the plan and continue implementing different aspects of it. Our committee provided input on previous goals, and then and then internally, the committee doesn't look at every single policy because they're guided by CSBA. If you look at those documents, like about 200 pages of them are actually really board policies. So we made sure that they are actually approved. We do have a couple that, not necessarily CSBA, but local policies that we're going to continue examining and so on. So what we started doing last year is really bringing in goals of what we want to do and accomplish when it comes to making our campuses safer. The committee actually decided to keep the same sort of overarching goals or areas, but keeping, just changing the goals within them a little bit and then updating the action steps. So these are the 4 overarching areas. We have emergency preparedness, physical safety, mental health and wellness, and then positive behavior. I will say that the safety committee focused on the first 2, emergency and physical, and really it's the wellness committee.
That does.
Mental health, wellness committee, yes.
Wellness, yeah.
What are we called now? Steering committee really focused on numbers 3 and 4, with some input sort of between all 4 here and there, and they looked at each other's action steps.
Can I ask, these goals, and not having seen, all the years past, but do most schools have the same goals when they put every school has to have, or every district has to have one of these documents? Are the goals almost always like this, or are there other things that other districts may decide to focus on?
Sometimes the districts don't even do any kind of goals, and they just keep updating comprehensive safety plans. And that's sort of what we did here. This is my personal experience from the past, is that let's pick out a few things to work on every year. So that's what we brought last year. The board, or 2 years ago, the board preferred it because it made sense, and and then actually the steering committee said, we can read these action steps. These comprehensive plans don't make much sense. So that's sort of why we changed the process.
No, and I think the goals are fantastic too. It really helps anchor things. I
Very
guess,
specific for us.
yeah, maybe the other part of the question was just, are there things that other districts focus on with respect to safety that we're not?
Sure.
Could consider adding, and what are, just out of curiosity, what might some of those be?
I mean, it depends, sometimes physical safeties may not be an issue, especially if you have newer buildings. You put in your cameras, you have a lot of fences, maintenance, so that's really established. I mean, I'm looking at Stewart, you were part of doing something like that in your former district. So then the bigger focus is on maybe mental health or emergency preparedness. Or if you have, I think the emergency preparedness, once we have those ongoing, around the parent clubs are holding like our emergency preparedness, and it doesn't actually feel good to our sites because we'll look at the containers and a lot of them are expired because maybe that parent volunteer left, right? So for us as a district, take on that responsibility. If once we implement a calendar, that doesn't actually ever have to be a goal anymore. It's just part of our protocol. So we can start focusing on something very different. In my former district, that didn't have to be a goal. It was a lot more on anti-bullying, mental health. We barely ever even talked about physical emergency preparedness. So I think it just shifts it really is like, hey, we've done this, put it aside. We don't actually, it just becomes part of the protocol.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's a lot of action items, but I will say when we sat down as a steering committee on our first meeting, and we actually had something like this similar from last year, we were able to check off a lot of things that we accomplished since last year. So it feels like a lot. It also feels like, I think it's doable. We can do this, and it's really pretty necessary. So the emergency preparedness, I mentioned, the big thing that was happening is that our parent clubs really owned a lot of the emergency preparedness. And as it is with parent clubs, every year you get a new parent volunteer or mid-year. So while we need them for support, kind of as the bodies to do it, right? We do need to actually hold the calendars. We need to hold the lists. We need to make sure that those are the same across all the school sites so that when our maintenance or in case of emergency, we as a staff go in, we know exactly what's in those containers and what's in every single classroom. So And also like our emergency plans, they are different. While our policies are the same, the actual school site emergency plans are different at every single school site. So each school had their own specific emergency plan, and that was sort of uncovered through this process. So that was part of our goal is we must align school emergency plans. Of course, there are different site-based needs. If you're middle school or elementary school, or if you're Wagner, or if you're Glorietta. But the plan itself should be aligned. We also, what the steering committee really felt, those plans are like 90 pages long. Those are the brief site-based emergency plans. No parent or staff member will go and suddenly pull up the 90 plan emergency. So what are the one-page briefs that we can connect and put them out there for communication? We also found a system of, or a prototype of what we want to put in every classroom. It's a design mixture of 3-4 different districts that can look with very clear messaging of what to do in every case of emergency. So every substitute, every teacher, and every student needs to know, can do very clearly. Since we've taken over BASC, we've realized that they don't have regular BASC emergency procedures. We actually have had emergencies during BASC. So our BASC employees need to be part of that. We need to have evacuations and emergency protocols scheduled for BASC. And then one of the things that's missing is on-site, off-site reunification plans. We do have them, they're just inconsistent. So reunification plans, if something happens and you actually can't follow the regular emergency evacuations. So where do you reunify with your parent for a pickup on campus if you can't go through a regular carpool, or what if it's not on your campus? So what if the city gets involved? Where do you go? And that is actually our need for very tight collaboration with the city, which
Working on.
we're working on. Yes. Why is this not moving? Oh, here we go. Going on with the emergency, our PA system, thanks to Kevin's work, he's given us PA systems at almost all school sites. They work. Glorietta's getting theirs at summer 2024, which is great. And I talked about an example of supply check. We have multiple supply lists, but we have emergency containers. What's supposed to be in those emergency containers? We are the emergency centers for the city of Orinda. I mean, Orinda. So what is in those emergency? They need to be checked annually. Are they actually making sure they're not expired and so on. We do not have a budget source for those right now. Each parent club funds them separately, and it has been recommended that we need to figure out what is that ongoing recommended budget source, especially for the classroom ones, because there's emergency supplies in every classroom. Clear transportation plans, a case of evacuation. That's also something that we need to work with. Orinda, city of Orinda, we have been told that we're going to get buses, but we just need to know very clearly who do you call, how, who comes and gets them, where are they? And you can see where the plan of Orinda really touches the plan of our district tightly. So that's why there's that bullet, continue and improve collaboration with the city of Orinda, OPD, MOFD, relating all of these issues of safety. The city of Orinda, that we have some very passionate fire-wise, and fire safety in the community is very important, and we want to make sure we continue partnering with them. Emergency plans need to be on our school and district websites. So once we align them, we want to make sure they're posted there and communicated with our families. We go to physical safety. Utilizing best practices for securing the physical safety of student staff before, during, and after school programs. So not only during school day, but before and after. And again, this is partnering with the city of Orinda. This has been this is an ongoing action item from last year too. The crossing guards and traffic safety. We do have some blind spots around and some hot zones around our schools where we could really use some collaboration around the traffic safety. We haven't.
And actually, I thought in some cases, I thought there were parents that were also volunteering as crossing guards. So I just noticed you don't mention the parents clubs here. Is that no longer part of the plan?
We're very dependent on them. Like, so 2 days you don't have a volunteer, other days you do. So that's been the problem.
Using parent volunteers
Is that
anymore
no-
for that.
And then at Delray, you have Dan, who
just does it out of
every day.
and
Delray. Oh my
shouldn't.
gosh. I know.
Right. That's our custodian.
Okay.
Right.
Right, but I didn't think that we had parents doing that.
No, they don't anymore at any of our school sites.
Okay, so that's why the Parents Club is not up there.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it was a liability thing partially.
Yes.
That makes
They're
sense. I
off
just feel
campus
like
at
I've
Sleepy Hollow, but they're at the
seen them.
corner.
Yeah.
the cage side,
Like,
but not on campus.
No, they're not doing it on our campuses. They do sometimes do it off campus, but it's very inconsistent.
Yeah,
So-
that's fair. Okay.
Right. So there are our neighboring cities actually have partnerships with the city. So either in resources or other partnerships. So we'd love to explore that.
Can you share more about that? I mean, what you know, how that
So,
partnership.
like Walnut Creek, for example, the city of Walnut Creek pays for crossing guards.
Crossing guards.
Interesting.
Lafayette, city of Lafayette pays for crossing guards. Moraga,
School site?
and Moraga, I think it's a shared cost. I could be maybe switching two of those,
Sure.
but Walnut Creek I know, and then I think Lafayette is the full.
I'm not sure it's at every school site though, in Lafayette. I think it's.
Okay.
I would love to see if we can just
I can update on
comparison,
that too.
yeah, and the numbers. And how much each party pays.
Can do that. And I think one of and they're just staff in San Ramon.
They utilize split shifts with
Yes.
bus drivers,
So we-
things
so
like.
it's something else. So you maybe do like a noon duty and then in the morning you're doing crossing
Yeah.
guard. So it's just classified staffing. And that's something to explore too.
Mhm.
So shifting, maybe timing when staff starts.
Someone could come half an
Right.
hour earlier. or something.
Right. Okay, we have started providing street safety education, actually assemblies to our students. Our parents didn't know anything about it in most cases, so they were very interested in how does that look like? Let's partner. So communications. This is some internal kind of review, somehow our reporting protocols work between when an injury happens on campuses. We've noticed now in the darkness how dark our campuses are in the evenings. So it was brought up to explore, can we figure out adding lighting and to motions? Can we do something to improve how dark our campuses are without, beaming up the neighborhoods? I think there's a specific term for that. Examining, and then one of the things that came up as people were examining their campuses is some of our campuses are quite a redundancy and a lot of no's in signage, which has numbed the parents. So we gave them sort of a task of go look at what the sign, what do these campuses say? And there was a lot of, you would literally have fences with no of something, which people just walk by and do whatever
You
those
take their
signs say
dog and
not
they
to
walk
do.
right by the no-nos.
So it's almost like we're becoming just numb to all the signage. And then also it's not a very welcoming, like, hey, everybody belongs here, welcome. And it's, 20 no signs. So that was brought up as sort of examining the volume, redundancy, tone and signage.
Actually, the dog one is an interesting one because there are a lot of dogs on campus, particularly on off-school hours. Is that something we consider, like, how worried should we be about some of that well, I guess there's a couple questions there. One is,
So many.
how much do we have, how much are we worried about the physical safety outside of school hours? The second is, how much do we want to enforce some of these things? Or are these the kind of topics that these committees will talk about?
Dogs are a hot topic. Our campuses would love to not have dogs on campus because of the gifts that they leave. behind.
That their
The owners don't
pick
pick up.
Well, beyond that, there's a lot of children on campus.
Well, that too, but I'm just saying, like, our staff in the morning is finding,
up. Dog poop.
dog waste everywhere. And the kids are bringing it into the classrooms and they're all over the play structures. In the after-school activities, the dogs are running through the fields and our staff, coaches are
Scare the
complaining.
kids.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not involved in the after schools. They're not necessarily there during the day, even though we do see an occasional dog, walker, but they're usually not off the leash during the daytime. We would not have anybody to enforce. So it usually falls onto the police, which some parents have complained to the police, and we've actually talked to the police about that. They said we have 4 police officers at a time. So they just can't implement.
So
So,
always ask that question just so it's clear, like, because of like the lights, for example, like,
Yeah.
or is it, how much of a priority should it, I mean, it'd be great to have lights to make sure it's safe at all times, but we're not necessarily taking, it's not our job to make
We're
sure
not,
it's
yeah.
safe from dogs and like
right,
all these
I
things
think,
at
I
all
think
times. So
specifically
just
the
trying to
lights
figure out
came
what our
across
priority-
like, picking up your kids from Basque in the
Right.
winter and by
Yep. No,
4:35,
yeah,
it's
it's dark.
dark.
Yeah.
That,
We were-
that was more the concern within
Okay.
our meetings.
Okay.
versus-
and we had a.
We were at OIS for a
Parameters.
steering committee meeting and it was pitch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's-
We couldn't walk around.
Yeah.
We were supposed to walk around campus and we couldn't see anything.
Yeah, no, I'm not
That
saying
was
that's
more the
not important, I'm
reasoning,
just
yeah.
thinking, okay, yeah, just trying to
On
get
that
a
one.
good spectrum of what we're considering.
Right.
I think with the signs, it was more like, how do you make them effective? Because
Yeah, it's too-
particularly with the dogs, it doesn't seem to stick
It's
for
not
any
working.
reason whatsoever. But even signage on like, please check in at the office, or like, how do you get
Are,
buy-in?
are the visitors funneled to the office, to the front office? When you come, do you know where to go to even check in? As opposed to when you see so many, you're actually, I'm just gonna walk around. So.
Dogs are hard, on the weekends because our schools are kind of the community
It's very
hub,
open.
right? It's very open for playgrounds and
And even in the schools that are completely fenced off, they actually become more inviting to the dogs because you actually now have a fenced in
Sorry,
dog
let
park.
them run.
So I'm not quite sure how to resolve that one. Okay, so going towards the wellness goals, for us, we will continue to prioritize and expand health and wellness practices for social emotional safety of students. I think we've had numerous presentations here that our children just deal with. It is a different world out there. And wellness has become an integral part of our education of just who we are. So we have these amazing wellness centers and amazing wellness counselors. I think the next step is truly making sure that they're coordinated. They work really well together and they collaborate, but it's how are they coordinated so that the programs are aligned across the district. There's been a line item, parent clubs supporting an expansion at OIS. So it is examining, can we expand wellness support for students in middle school? Or does it look like a different redistribution of our current counseling support there? So just examining that. This is an ongoing item of how do we develop comprehensive parent education relating mental health and wellness. We have actually hundreds of parents attending our parent venture. It's nice because they are recorded videos. If you've never gone, I will bookmark a video that will speak to me and then you can listen to it later. And I think that's what a lot of our parents are doing. Unfortunately, we don't have a dashboard that we can see watch videos. We just know that they're going in and viewing them. I think we're just reaching the parents that are really interested. What we're not reaching is all of them. So how can we reach more? Second step character ed is something that we really wanted to re-implement last year. It is being used especially in our K-5s, so TK-5s, but it's examining what are the areas that we can supplement and add on to so we can continue developing our second step character ed. OIS Home Base Academy, our counseling staff there has really taken on developing those lessons, but we want to make sure they have a very clear curriculum and how they're dealing with anti-bullying, sexual harassment, and all sorts of those topics. We have a very outdated health education curriculum that's adopted that is not quite utilized. So it is constantly on our teachers to create that 5th and 7th grade and comes from the CNI department. So we really need to evaluate and adopt a comprehensive curriculum. What are we using? Because that is a mandate to teach and it should be relevant, evidence-based, and current. And age appropriate. And this is kind of an overlap between our safety committee and wellness is that facilities and physical environment truly matter for wellness. So they were talking about outdoor classrooms, trees, gardens, that really considering that physical environment as we are repairing our facilities that contribute to mental health and wellness as we're putting up different structures or taking down trees. What does that do to our mental health of our students? You guys can all, there you go.
Oh,
There you go.
The last one is around positive behavior. That will implement school-wide programs to provide students and staff with tools and to support positive student behaviors. Last year, we really focused in this around bringing in specific, like restorative justice or PBIS, positive behavior intervention, but kind of expanded it to see what are the root causes and needs for positive behavior supports, kind of doing a little bit more of a step back and analysis, because we use it's COVID, last couple of years, but it's so much more than that. Now it really is, just living in today's world is very different. And I don't think we can go back to COVID. So I think it's what is it and how can we support our students? There is an accountability to behaviors, and that goes to positive. How do we support students if there are no positive behaviors, and how is that happening? So we really wanted to commit to developing a district-wide behavior matrix with accountability and supports. This has been an ongoing thing as well, as working with our Orinda partners. And so many of our students are in after-school sports. Can they help support positive behavior that can then trickle back to the school sites? Not quite sure what that looks like, but there are a lot of positive coaching alliances, positive behavior alliances that we can partner with and encourage them to be a part of. Ongoing training and staff support. And then really making sure that we're sharing. There were some really great best practices across the district. And we're just not, how do we examine those and make sure that they're being shared? Right now we're sharing a lot of our recess practices, cultural practices across the districts that are happening. So how can we make sure that those are aligned? As I was reminded by some parents, we all talk at the weekend. So we like to go, like, if my kid's going on a field trip, how come I'm not going on a field trip? If my kid has this at recess, how come I don't get to do this at recess? So really making sure that we're sharing best practices across our communities to contribute to that positive culture. Okay, those are our goals. I'll just say that when you look at those plans, they have all of these components of the safety plan in there, and we have reviewed those policies. Any questions, comments, thoughts? The schools have approved, they've added, tweaked these goals. Each school site has approved them. But what we are looking for is a board approval, and then we'll get to work and start implementing them.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate all the work that went into synthesizing it in this way and presenting it, and because those documents are so unwieldy that I appreciate this. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to comment about the steering committee, since Cara and I both sat on it. I think it was a really good process, much more robust than last year. That was my assigned committee last year as well. And I think there was a lot of really helpful input from different stakeholders, including Chief Sullivan coming to a meeting. That was just helpful to know that there are other partners in some of the work. I think we did end up with a really hefty to-do list. But it actually was each part had been looked at and discussed pretty much at length throughout those meetings. So I feel pretty confident in the buy-in and also the direction there. And I agree with Hillary. I think this is way better than the giant document that gets turned into the state. I'd much rather it be actionable than a rubber stamp.
And we do attach it as an appendix to it.
Okay.
And so it's part of that, yes.
Yeah, I was just going to add also, I appreciate all the input from the different, with the site council and then the different steering committees. It's just nice to see such a robust involvement in that.
I like to see, I appreciate the work, but I'm more appreciative of the wellness work and how that's categorized. I think that's so important, as you mentioned earlier, but those two goals, behaviors and everything in wellness is so important.
Great. And we'll have a wellness presentation scheduled in April. Follow-up, we'll do a wellness presentation and health kit survey. So Carrie will.
I think there was a lot of overlap between the committees. I got to sit on both. So we did actually put some of that wellness piece.
Yeah, there was a lot that was
in there, actually, quite a bit. Yeah, you were on that steering committee. You saw that part.
Yeah.
And the last thing, just to your earlier point about, some of these things we've already made progress on, some of them we're kind of just getting started on. I almost wonder if there's an easy way to do like a very simple, since we're school district report card, like 3 colors, like, hey, these are the things we're really just like launching. These are the things we're making good progress in here. We feel like we've gotten our right there.
It's a good
Maybe
idea.
for next year, that's definitely not now.
That's great. Great idea.
But that might just help us look at a glance also at what we should be
Yes.
focused on.
Oh, I like